Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the Vault webinar. We're going to get started here in about 2 minutes. We're still waiting on some people to join, but in the meantime, if you want to make sure the question section is working, you can go ahead and put your name and what chapter you're with today just to make sure that you are good to go, and you can use that during the webinar as well to ask questions as needed. But like I said, we'll start in about 2 minutes here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Thank you for joining our Vault webinar today. We're going to be talking about prepping for new members. For people who were on a little earlier, I went ahead and asked them to test out our question box. So you should be able to see where you can submit questions during the webinar if you want to pop your name and chapter in there just to make sure that is working out for you. And throughout the webinar, you'll be able to put any questions you may have in there. So my name is Sarah Beth Russell. I'm going to be leading the training for today in the webinar. And then with me, I have my co-host, Amanda Bramley. She is going to be in the question section. So if you do submit questions during the webinar, she'll be the one answering those for you. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Amanda really quick, and she's going to give us a little background information on OmegaFi.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. Like Sarah Beth said, I'll give you some background on who OmegaFi is. We've been in business for over 30 years, and we've provided technology solutions to help customers manage their finances, streamline their operations, recruit new members, and communicate with their members. We are based out of Columbus, Georgia, and we securely process more than $1.1 billion per day for our clients, and we've securely processed more than $4 billion since 1992. We are deeply committed to serving, promoting, and advancing the fraternity and sorority experience. We're passionate about what we do, and it's this passion that has encouraged our clients to trust us to do the heavy lifting so they can focus on their mission and having fun. So that is a little about OmegaFi, and I will hand it back over to Sarah Beth.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. We're going to go ahead and look at our agenda for today. So we're going to be going over, again, prepping for new members. So whether you've already added your new members or you're adding them soon, we're just going to walk through some reminders for this process. So we're going to look at where you add your new members at, then how to look at if they are logged in or not, so getting them logged in and set up, and then we'll look at updating your billing groups as well as fall billing. So if you've added new members or any changes in the roster, how you can adjust charges accordingly. And then we'll do some conversations about officer purchasing cards and some other reminders. And at the end, we will have Q&A. So looking at Vault here, first we're going to go to where you can add your new members. So under your chapter tab here, you can go to add new members. Now, depending on if your national organization has an integration or not, you may need to add them in whatever portal your nationals uses, or if not, then you're just going to add your new members in Vault. So we went to chapter, add new members. It's going to take you to this page here, and then you can either add members individually by clicking the add member, and it will pull this up here where you'll fill in this information, or you can add those members in mass. It even gives you a downloadable template that you can then use to fill in the information and upload. So this will be where you add those new members. And then one more thing about adding your new members. So if someone who doesn't have billing access is adding your new members, it's going to put them in a temporary billing group. So even if someone without billing access is adding them, someone with billing access is probably going to have to go back and update them out of the temporary billing group. Otherwise, they won't be able to get charges. We'll look at where you can update your billing groups later, specifically for those members, where that's going to be at. But the same goes for those who have an integration. So if they're pulling from another system, more than likely they'll be in a temporary billing group. And like I said, we'll look at how you can update that later. And then you can also find any reporting under this tab as well. So your member initiation reporting, if you do that through Vault, any of that is going to be under your chapter tab also. And then we'll go to communications here, and we're going to look at mass emails. This is where you can send your established access reminders. So if we go to the send established access reminders here, if there's anybody who has not logged into the system, it's going to produce this email to send to them. And then underneath that, like down here, you'll see any of those members who have not logged in yet. So if at any point they're like, hey, I'm not able to get into the system, you can resend them their email here. They can also go to omegafy.com, get access, and do it that way as well. But if you want to make it easy for them, this is going to be great. Send them to the same place, that get access page, and you can just generate that email for them. One other thing to note with that, if you use any other Omegafy products that they may have already logged into, typically with new members, you're not going to see that. But if they have, then they'll log in with the same email address and password that they've used for the other products. If not, when they go to that get access page, it's going to take them through the steps to get actually registered and that account created. Now that we've checked that they're logged in, this is where we're going to now look at how to update their billing group. So you can check their billing group under the billing tab here. We're going to look at assign members without a billing group. So like I said, if anybody who doesn't have billing access adds those new members to the system, they're going to have a temporary billing group, and same with if they're pulling in from another system. So you'll go to this page here and it'll show you any of your people who don't have a billing group, and it'll allow you to change the billing group too. So you'll just select whatever billing group they need to move into. If it's new members, you'll just select that and select all the people who need to be moved and update that. And you'll have like a red button down at the bottom that says update changes, and that will get them set up and good to go. You want to check the members without billing groups first, just to make sure there's no one outstanding. And then if you do have anybody else that you need to like update billing groups for, you know, if somebody changed from in-house to out-of-house or went from a payment plan to in full, whatever you need to do for that, you can change those accordingly as well. So you can go under the same billing tab, you'll go to update billing groups, and similar to that other page, this is kind of what that looks like. And then you can click the members who need to change and then what billing group they're going to be changed into. So if they need to go to a payment plan, and then you can also filter this. So if you know they're already in the active billing group and they need to move to active payment plan, you can just filter it that way as well. And then you'll say update billing group, and that will change that. So once you've updated them into their correct billing groups, you can then check the billing statuses under here, update billing statuses under that same billing tab. With the billing statuses, this is going to be different from the member statuses. So your member status is how HQ sees the members. So your national is like how they build the chapter, you guys, for how many active members you have. So you want to check your member statuses as well, which you can do that under chapter and update member statuses. But then you also want to update your billing statuses. That's going to be what signifies to the vault like who to bill. So the billing status is how it knows to send statements to that member and assess them charges. So if they're in active billing status, even if they are, let's say, member status active brother, if you have them inactive billing status, they're not going to get those new charges. So you just want to make sure they're all up to date as well, so you can see who's active or inactive and update people accordingly. Same with, let's say maybe you've moved someone from an active brother to disaffiliated or graduated or whatever they may be. If you've done that, but you haven't updated their billing status, you want to make sure you do that as well, so they're not getting charged after they are no longer at the school or whatever it may be. So once you've updated that, you can make sure they have the correct charges. So now that you've updated like your billing groups and your billing statuses, you want to make sure that if any changes have made, like at this point in the semester, if you've already had statements go out, you're going to want to make sure you update any of those charges. So what we can do is go to billing overview. So there's a few different things we can do here. We can check what the statements already have. We're looking at this page first because this is going to tell us what the charges are. So for example, for new members, let's say cycle 1's already gone out, but you just added your new members. What you can do is you can edit the charges and set them up for a later cycle, or if you haven't set up billing yet, you can set up your billing where new members get charged in a later cycle. So for example, if you know you're going to add your new members in September, you might want to set up your charges to go out in whatever cycle is after September. So we've kind of see this here in this particular example. We don't have anything going out in cycle 1, but in cycle 2, they start to assess charges. That way you have time to get your new members in and assigned to a billing group, and that way you don't have to go in and back bill them. Now, if you do have to back bill, or if any changes are made to billing groups after charges have gone out, the way that you're going to do that is, well, there's two different things you can look at. So we're going to do billing and add transactions to a group. So this is the option that you would use if you're doing a specific group. So if we've loaded everybody into the new member group, we'll look who all is in there, select all the members, and then we'll go to the next step and add their charges accordingly. So for this, you might want to open a second tab where you have that billing overview pulled up so you can add all the correct charges accordingly. If it's only for a few members, like if you're only adding it for one person, you can still use the add transaction in mass, and then you would just select accordingly. Now, if you're adjusting billing, you can also use the option add transaction in mass rather than by group. And here you can select the member and what type of either charge or credit. So let's say somebody was charged in full, but they needed to be in a payment plan. You may have to go in and credit the charges that were originally made to only be what should have been for the first cycle for a payment plan. So if you guys charge 100 in full, but it should have been split up in 50-50 increments, and you've moved them to the correct billing group now, you would then need to credit them the $50. So when the next cycle comes out and they get charged the 50, it's not on top of what they already have on their account. You can also use this to add any like miscellaneous charges throughout the semester. So if you have like t-shirt, event tickets, even like fines, anything like that, this would be a great page to do that. The difference between like the in mass and by group, if everybody in the group is going to get that, or even if you're selecting multiple people but they're getting the same charges, doing by group is going to be the best option for that. Whereas here, this allows you to do separate amounts. So when you're looking at the group one, you select all your people, you put in the charges, and it goes onto all of their accounts. Whereas here we can say, you know, if it's a charge for a t-shirt, and then whatever income account you want it to go to, and then you can do the amount for $15. But then also, let's say Will also got a t-shirt, but he got 2 t-shirts, so we need to charge him for 30. This is going to allow you to do various different amounts. Same with like fines or anything like that. If the amounts are varying, then add transaction in mass is going to be the better way to go for that. Also, when looking at this on your income accounts, make sure you're choosing the correct income accounts when you're adding to this, that they're going to the right account. So like if you have any type of direct routing set up, so if you have rent set up to go into a particular fund, make sure you're using that correctly. Also with your specific fees, if we go back to the billing overview here, if we're looking at new members, let's say, you can see we don't have any national dues on here, but depending on your chapter, if you have national dues set up automatically, a lot of times you might have auto-assessed fees for your new members. So keep that in mind when you're setting up their fees. You can always check with your client ops rep if you're not sure if you have auto-assessed fees, but a lot of times when you add your new members, if they have any type of like new member fee or associate fee, whatever it may be, that's going to automatically assess when you add them. And then if you have initiation fee, when your initiation report is approved, a lot of times that will assess. So if you have those auto assessed fees, you just want to make sure you're not putting them in the cycle of charges, because then they'll essentially get double billed for those. So something to look at. But if they do have national dues and fees, like your members, you probably are charging them your national dues. And if you have like insurance or anything like that, make sure you're coding the income account correctly, so that way it goes into your national dues and fees account. And again, if you have it set up specifically, some organizations have it where it will automatically go into the account. You can have that, and then that way all that money that's routed in there, like as soon as somebody pays their, so for example, this particular chapter, as soon as somebody finishes paying their $225 for cycle 1, the $100 that's for their national dues and fees will fully go into the national dues and fees fund to be paid out to your national invoice. So make sure you're looking at those for if you have that set up. And again, watch out for any auto assess fees. Make sure you're not double charging your new members when you're adding them if you have those set up. Another thing when doing your billing that you want to make sure you include, you have a merchant discount fee that is for credit cards. So this is not anything that's like paid to Omegafy or paid out to the chapter. This is a fee that's strictly for card processing. So that is something that you need to consider when setting up your dues. You can set up like an accounting fee to counteract that if a lot of your members pay by card. And then you also have your Omegafy fee. So depending on what that is, if it's X amount per member or whatever it may be, you can build that into your fees. So here we see on this particular one, we've added that where there's an accounting fee and then the Omegafy fee. So that way it's not coming out of your chapter dues. Now, if you don't want to line item them separately, you don't have to. You can just build it into your chapter dues, but definitely consider the merchant discount fee. That is 3.05 for cards and then 3.15 for Amex. So if anybody's paying by card, that amount automatically is going to come off the top just for card processing. You can set up the accounting fee, and if you do that, typically we just say add up the total of whatever your dues are and multiply it by the, like 0.0305 for the merchant discount fee, and then round up on that just to make sure you're covering it. And another way to avoid that is if you encourage your members to pay by e-check. When they pay by e-check, that merchant discount fee is not coming out of there. Just to give a little perspective on that, this is like a test account we have just showing some of this here. You guys can look at this as well. I'll show you where you can look at this, but this is the Omegafy last 30 days register. So you can see like this payment here was received, and then here is the merchant discount fee for Amex, and then 32. So like in combined, you're taking out like $34-ish just for card fee. So definitely make sure you're building that into your budget somehow to make sure that, you're not losing that out of your chapter dues. If you want to check how much your Omegafy fee is, the way you can do that, you can look at accounting here and go to your vault billing fee details. For this test account, we don't have anything set up, but it'll show you like what billing method you have, and then it'll show you the amount. You can look at previous semesters if you haven't sent out cycle 1 yet. If you've already sent out cycle 1, then you should be able to see what your full amount is for fall semester, and you can look at it there. And then where you can find that register that I showed you guys the screenshot of, you can go to accounting here, go to your account registers, and then here's where you can see all your accounts, so you can like see where your money's flowing into. But the Omegafy last 30 days is really helpful because it'll show kind of everything. So if we go back to this really quick, like we can see where everything is going. Payment is received, fee that is held to go towards your Omegafy fee, and then your merchant discount fee, whatever's coming out of that. And then if you have any direct routing, so like here we have a split withholding for national dues and fees, so that's anything that's coded to national dues and fees automatically going into that fund. And then everything else, like if there's remaining amount, it'll go to the chapter. So like it'll show you the full breakdown of that as well. Also on that, when remembering to do your fees for merchant discount and for Omegafy, make sure you're adding those to your new members as well. A lot of times people will set them up initially for their regular groups, but when they're looking at their new members, they will forget to add those in there. Even if you only have like your new member fee and your initiation fee, if you're not adding any chapter dues or anything like that, still make sure you add in something to cover your Omegafy fee or any like excess charges. Again, merchant discount fee, because when they pay their, new member type fee or initiation fee, if they have any of those, or any type of like national dues that may go on there, that credit card fee may still apply if they're not paying by e-check. So make sure you have budget that into their account as well. And then the last thing we're gonna look at here, when kind of starting your fall semester, if you're still pretty new into it, we just wanted to go over officer purchasing cards. So under the bill pay tab, you can look at your officer purchasing cards here. So if you have people who are new in their position that have changed from spring and you need to update their cards, you can, if there's any cards to display, you'll see it here, and you can cancel any cards for a previous admin who's maybe no longer in that position, and then you can add cards here. So you can add one for yourself or you can add for someone else. Now they'll need to have access to bill pay for that. So in order to make sure that is updated, you can go to the user access here under the bill pay tab. With that though, just make sure if you are granting access to someone, you have to do two different things here. So if you're adding global access, you'll do grant all permissions, or if they don't need all permissions, you can manage that accordingly. But then you also need to make sure you are granting them fund permissions as well. So if they need to have access to your funds, however many funds that you have, you'll need to make sure they have access to that accordingly. So once you've run out of however many funds you have, it'll just look like this. So if they need to have access to all of the funds you guys might have, so if you have different funds set up for like rent, regular operating, national dues and fees, anything they need access to, make sure you're doing it here for their global permissions, but then also for their fund permissions as well. And this bill pay access can only be added after they have vault access. So if you haven't added their vault access yet, you can do that here under the gear icon. Go to your vault users and add a user. So you can choose from your members who the user is, and they'll need to have that bill pay access to be able to those things. Okay, and then a few other reminders here we're going to look at. Just a reminder for tax filing dates that may be coming up. So if you guys have a fiscal year ending in December, May 15th is the tax filing date. But if you have your fiscal year ended 5/31, then coming up you'll have October 15th filing date. And then for those who ended in on June 30th, you'll have a November 15th filing date. So just a reminder for that, if you haven't already got everything together for filing your 990s for the year, those are going to be the dates to remember. Right now, anybody who's filed for May should already have that done, but anybody coming up for October 15th or November 15th, just know that's coming. And if you need any help with that, you can reach out to your client ops person and they can direct you to where to get that information. We'll go ahead now and look at our Q&A. I'm putting up here on the screen our emails. So if you need any questions from your chapter rep, you can reach out to operations support. If you have any issues with your members logging in, they can reach out to login support. And then member and parent billing questions, they can reach out to customer support, as well as we have our in-app support under the Get Help button within Vault. But Amanda, have we had any questions come in?
Yes, we've had quite a few questions come in. One of the ones that I told her that I would have you go over it is, she asked if we will not have new members before cycle 2, but installments are split into 3 payments, how would we update the cycle's charges for fall semester for new members paying in installments? So I told her that she could always add an additional cycle to fall or add that next payment to spring, but I figured you could go more into detail about that or give different advice if you thought it was better.
Yeah, definitely on the billing, if you need to add like an additional cycle, you can do so. So like if you only have 4 cycles set up and let's say they end, like here you can see this one ends in November, so there's still, or I'm sorry, it actually ends in December. But if you wanted to maybe like condense them some, your client ops rep can help you do that, and you can add an additional cycle to where you could then, it wouldn't be anything different for your active members. They would just get another reminder statement if they have an outstanding balance. But what that would do for your new members, it would allow you to be able to put that additional cycle in. Or the other option, if you're not wanting to change any of your like dates, especially if they've already gone out, that can get a little tricky. My suggested option would be that, let's say you're adding them after cycle 2, or even after cycle 3, you could have it set up like this still, and then you can just back bill them. So what we looked at when you go to add transactions to a group, you can just add those transactions in accordingly, and they would have that. So when they get their statement, they'll see that that's fully on there, and you can go ahead and let them know, like before statements go out, that that amount is already on there if they want to pay on it or make payments on it, depending. And you can also, if you want to like help them out in terms of if the payment plan gets a little wonky because of when they're added, you can hold late fees on their account. So like if you go to your member list by billing group, you can click on a particular member and look at their billing profile here. And from here, you can edit to have late fees on or off for that particular member. Now with this though, you'll have to go back in and turn it off. Or actually you can say off and then like have it in by a certain date. So like let's say payment agreement, and then you can have it end by X date when they're supposed to have it paid in full. So that can also help as well. So if you're trying to like avoid them getting any late fees. Amanda, would you add anything to that?
No, that was good. Thank you.
Mhm.
And then we received a couple of questions about like how different organizations are set up. So I figured we could just go over that real quick. One was like under adding new members, if they have an integration, what that will look like. So I just let them know that they just won't have that add members button under the chapter menu. So
Yeah,
the
you
only
won't.
thing that you'll see is the new member form. And then there was one more question. Let me see what it said. Oh, so and then there are some organizations that do not have the ability to edit charges after they're set up. You will have to call or email us and we will change it for you.
And then I do see also the one about the sending established access. So I know we looked at under the communications tab with the mass email. That's if you want to resend it, but they asked, does it automatically send it? So yes, whenever the members are added, whether they're pulled from another system or if you add them here, like if you have the ability to do that, either way, whenever they're added to the system, it will send them an email for them to register. So they should automatically get that email. You don't have to do anything for that. The only reason you would use the mass email would be to resend that. Like if they maybe accidentally deleted it or it's been a while, they can't find the email, you can resend it, but they will automatically get that when they're added to the system. Was
Those
there
were
any?
all of the questions.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, that is gonna wrap up for today. I'm gonna throw these up here really quick if you need them. Again, these are just our support lines. I know Amanda mentioned that some chapters can't edit after, so if you need to contact, that's gonna be your chapter support. Again, any login support, we have that, and then member parent billing questions. So if your member or their parents have specific questions about their bill, they can reach out to customer service. That will conclude everything for today, and we thank you guys again for joining us.